boys and girls, it's time to Nerd Fight! The ultimate showdown where geek culture collides with unfiltered opinions and passionate debates. I'm your host, Mr. Know-It-All, bringing you the latest and greatest from the world of movies, TV shows, and all things nerdy. But hold on to your warp cores because the real captain of this starship is none other than Salty Trekker. So strap in for a wild ride because we're talking about the Penguins' penultimate episode, Lower Decks. All that and more starts right now. You don't want to miss it. That means only one thing. It's time to fight. Nerd Fights.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Nerd Fights. I am Mr. Know-It-All, joined, of course, as always, with Salty Trekker, the guy who really runs this entire ship. He just gives me permission to run crazy and make me think I do something. But how are you, sir?
Good. Although I do want to say this right off the bat. So the only political thing I'm going to say is we're not going to talk about politics. This is, like the intro says, TV, movies, all things nerdy. We're not talking about...
We gotta have a peaceful place, man.
Yeah, we're not talking about the election. We're not talking about whether the world is doomed or the world is saved.
You suck, bro. Yeah. Is this like Ryan Reynolds? He's like, Feige said no, can't talk about cocaine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Politics is the cocaine of this channel.
Hang on, a moment of silence. Good for
did Tony Todd pass away?
Rest in peace, Tony Todd. Tony Todd passed, man.
I did not hear about that.
Yeah, it literally, I think it's this morning. I just saw it this morning.
Yeah. You know, he was great as Kern, but I will always remember him as Candyman.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Absolutely.
My favorite thing is I learned about him as Candyman first, and then you saw him when they put him in other things, and I'm like, that's like Robert Englund. I can't see Robert Englund as anyone other than Freddy.
For me, Robert Englund is always the nerdy alien from V.
Oh, yeah, dude, I remember that. Now, that's going crates. That's deep in the crates. Yes. I love me some V. That was a wonderful one. The original version, and when they tried, the reboot was like...
The reboot was okay, but it was a far cry from the original.
Definitely.
And I think that, like, the newer version just had the advantage of better visual effects.
True.
But the story was all over the place and just wasn't as compelling as the original.
I hear that. Thomas says he died on the 6th, but was announced yesterday. That makes sense. That makes it. Give the family a moment of peace before everything explodes around them. That's real.
Yeah. Anyway, so my back surgery is slowly healing. The cybernetic. I got my remote for my cybernetic.
Oh my God.
That's actually what this is.
I'm surprised you're not like, I got my remote.
Yeah.
I can just wait, arm goes up.
I requested to get a little gray box with 8 buttons on it, like Dr. McCoy rigged up for stock, but couldn't do it. They wouldn't,
So you gotta do is you gotta take it to somebody who knows. Like back in the day, you'd go to Radio Shack and they had someone there who knew, and you would say, "Hey, I need this signal from this to work on this."
Yeah.
You make them a tricorder. You're like, "Excuse me, I have to fix my back." That would be so cool.
And no, Thomas, I can't use, this is an encrypted system. So this little device that's attached physically to the back of this smartphone is actually the communicator that and it's actually called a communicator.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is the best.
But it's the communicator that connects the phone to the implant. And it is, and so the phone has no cellular signal, so you can't get in. It has.
I'm gonna come back to your comment. I gotta ask. Stanley goes, "Are you Bluetooth?"
Yes, I am. Funny enough,
Stan, we could just Bluetooth connect to our.
So this encrypted device does use Bluetooth technology to connect to the implant in my back.
I love it so much.
So I am actually Bluetooth compatible.
Yes. You are Bluetooth compatible. You realize I'm getting you that shirt for Christmas now. I swear to you, you will. You're gonna get a gift for Christmas.
That's what here's a T-shirt. Whenever we get a merch store going, we need to have, Nerd Fights, the only podcast with a Bluetooth compatible host.
For real. Oh my God. Oh, I love it so much. What's funny is we don't have an official Bluetooth. God, listen to me. We don't have an official store, but we do have like merch and stuff. I need to put the link in the description because you can, if you go directly to, because you have to set up a brand when you set it up. Mm-hmm. So we have Amazon merch technically. that's out there. That's
Yeah.
this is one of these shirts. This is one of them, property of Nerd Fights. And there's another one floating out there, which is like fight something or other. It's great. We have another one. Hold on a second. He says, Stanley says, set up the thing as a subwoofer. You imagine?
Yeah, so I just like start vibrating every time.
It's just this giant echo chamber. Thomas says he wouldn't do anything like possibly interrupt. He wouldn't hack you at all, he promises.
Yeah, somehow I don't trust him.
Thomas and the Russians. Nobody's hacking, I promise.
Yeah. Hey.
That's in every movie everywhere.
I'm just saying you're getting bored. The problem is it's also real life reasons.
No, it's right. It's like you watch stuff like Swordfish, and they're talking about the Koreans and stuff, and I'm like, this is all hitting a little close to home.
Yes.
Like it's like The Simpsons. How The Simpsons have predicted everything for every time for whatever. If there's a natural disaster, there's an episode probably.
Yeah.
Matt Groening was talking in an interview once, and he actually said, he goes, yeah, that's the problem is that when you have to do this many episodes, the stuff that used to be crazy, suddenly you're like, oh, that's happening. Wait, what?
Yes.
So it's like, oh my God.
So yeah, Thomas is threatening to zap me anytime I mention the triple timeline.
Ben One Eye says, I hate that this show has to be live at the same time as another live stream I follow, but I guess it can't be helped.
There's a simple solution. Stop following the other live streams.
Or if you're a multitasker with ADD like I am, you got two podcasts going at once, and once in a while.
Well,
Like,
here's the thing, Ben. Let me just lay it out on the line. Of the two that you follow, which one gives you direct attention like we're giving you right now?
true story.
See?
Right?
See?
Who sits here and
which
says
one actually
Ben One
loves
Eye?
you, Ben? I know you love both live streams, so which of the live streams loves you?
Which live stream is going, hey there, Ben.
We love you, man.
We love you. By the way,
Today's
I love
live
you
stream, by
so
the way, is
hard.
dedicated to Ben One Eye.
Oh my God.
That's something we planned all along. We were talking before the show. We're gonna dedicate this week to Ben One Eye. We're gonna dedicate it to a different person every week.
That's right. This week
And
is
Ben just happened to be the first one.
Ben, we're doing this just to keep you here. I
Yes.
hope you understand. That's so hardcore.
Meanwhile, Ben's watching the other live stream. He has no idea we've been talking about it for the last 5 minutes.
Ben, Yuckster Thorsten says, got an idea for merchandise. How about Nerd Fight underwear? You get to get both of the faces of Salty and Mr. Know-It-All.
Funny you should mention underwear, Mr. Yuckster. No, because I know this wasn't part of the plan, but we always want to wait a few minutes before we get into our first official stuff because
Sure.
people trickle in.
Yes, we're going to talk Penguin Sour.
Yeah. So yesterday, the wife and I, as you know, we usually go to see a movie on Fridays, and yesterday we went to see Heretic.
Ooh, right. Okay, I heard that was good.
And I'll tell you, one of the things I complain about a lot is that Christians are almost universally poorly represented in movies, right?
We actually just had this conversation.
Yeah. They're psychos, they're crazy, they're stupid, whatever. Now, they didn't do that in this, and it's interesting because the two main characters are actually members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, right? The Mormons.
Is this mentioned by name?
Yes, mentioned by
Okay,
name many times. In fact, Mormon theology plays deep into this movie.
Interesting, okay.
But not just Mormon theology. They have discussions about general Christian theology, Jewish theology, Islamic theology, and then the various pagan religions. That's the core of this movie, is about, is there a true religion? That's like, that's the main, this villain, without getting too deep into spoilers, unless, we don't care about spoilers, but this villain, his motivation is exploration of theological truth.
So Stanley asks, is most of the movie basically just a religious debate?
No, but a good chunk there's a good chunk of religious debate in the movie, but the movie's not just a religious debate.
So
it's also a psycho.
Okay, so here's my question. Is that trappings, or do you think the movie actually is trying to say something? A good example, the Saw movies in the beginning actually were trying to say something about culture.
I think this movie was trying to say something. I do think it fell a little short.
Got it.
And this is where like I mentioned this to you in a text, but I'll tell you guys on the I'm actually kind of excited about this because on the actual exposed channel, the one where I talk about more serious subjects like theology and stuff, I plan on doing a breakdown of every argument from this
Oh
movie
wow, that's cool.
once the movie is released on streaming so I can download it.
Right on.
And some of the arguments that are made on both sides are well done. Some are really kind of, you can tell that the writers of this movie, you can tell they didn't really understand a lot of the modern monotheistic faiths as well as they think they do, if that makes sense. Like they think they understand what Christianity is, but they kind of don't, especially when it comes to Christianity's relationship with Judaism and Islam.
Creep, I will absolutely. I think it's a good idea. Monster Hunter is not bad. I enjoyed it for what it is. I enjoyed it the same way I enjoyed the original. I say original, the '90s Fantastic Four movies. It's fun. Check out. Don't try to think too hard about it. And
I've
you
never
have
seen
the time.
what's Monster Hunter.
If it's the one I'm thinking of, it's the one with Mia Jovovich, where it's based on a video game, and she goes to another universe where she encounters these like giant monster things, and there are humanoids that are there who have been fighting them for however long, and they end up getting sucked into our world, and it ends with them facing like dragons and monsters in present time. It's actually not a bad movie. And I may very well have spoiled it for you, Creep. You don't have to finish watching it now.
Ben says the other live stream only loves me if I give them money. So that means the other live stream thinks you're a whore.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Here. Here we go.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh my God, no! But so let me tell you briefly for everybody who's just joining us. Thank you, by the way, to everybody who's on the stream. Feel free to share the stream and let other people know that what's going on. But we start the show every week. We talk a little bit about some things Salty's watched, some things I'm into, obviously as you've seen. But then we get into some of the bigger topics happening. I know that we saw the penultimate episode for the Penguin last Sunday, and moving into this coming week as well, we also got to see Lower Decks. So those two are big topics. But then toward the end of the show, we're going to open it up and just kind of an open mic Saturday.
Right.
Or as the title put it, Big Lunch Saturday, because we're going to talk about a lot of things. So hopefully you've made room. And yeah, man, it's good stuff. So let's
make room for that big nerdy burrito.
Big nerdy burrito. I love it. Stan Lee, I am a fan, but have not had a chance to finish. Or I know the second season. Is the second season out yet? I thought it was out. I haven't had a chance to watch the second part. I've only seen the first season, and I loved it. So I just have to get back to it.
And Hugh Grant, by the way, absolutely brings his A game to that movie.
It's good to see him doing like he's gone through his I'm having fun as a British guy phase, and now he's like, now I'm going to show you how dangerous I can come across. And I'm like, okay,
and because he brings all the wit and charm, like he dials that up to 11, but at the same time, everything has this like really evil undertone to it that you could just kind of feel. And so, yeah, he does an incredible job.
I love it. I love it. I love when people are like creepy because you're sitting here, like they're having a regular conversation. And you're like, why does it sound like if this conversation doesn't go your way, something bad's going to happen?
I mean, imagine like you've seen Hugh Grant, right?
Yes.
Nice, warm, charming guy. And he's like, oh, yes, of course, you can leave any time you want. Oh, fiddlesticks, the door jamb won't work. But not to worry, we can go through this door over here, And
it's even worse.
Yeah, and that's not an exaggeration of what happens in this movie, So that's a horrible Hugh Grant imitation, but
no, I got you. So let's, if you're good, let's go ahead and get into the first.
Yeah, we'll talk about some Penguin top.
We are going to talk about the Penguin. The Penguin, man. Penultimate episode. I was happy and also a tiny bit disappointed because
there was no top hat.
I know. It's based
on the episode Top Hat and not have a top hat in it.
It's based on the stupid movie that the kid's watching, and I'm like, ugh. But by the way, that kid who plays young Penguin.
Oh, he was good.
He was so creepy good. I was like, whoa.
That kid deserves an Emmy, a special category Emmy for best child performance.
Dude, he does such a good job. And
yeah.
Came in, stole the show. And the lady who plays his mom is channeling the other actress so great.
Yes.
Like, I was blown away.
Yeah, but I got to say, like, up until this point, I think the most disturbing child that I've seen in a TV show is probably young Kingpin from Daredevil. but this
Ooh,
guy,
yeah.
but this guy definitely takes the cake on that, which is ironic because honestly, Penguin is just DC Universe's version of Kingpin.
Yeah, I'll go with that. Yeah, I agree.
So, and they both have, like one of them killed his dad, this one kills his brothers, and
Bro, it's
yeah,
so rough. Like seriously.
yeah.
So the basic gist of it, and by the way, spoilers all day long if you haven't seen the show or don't know what we're talking about. We are absolutely going to spoil it. Okay, I need you to be warned. There will be spoilers, 100%. All right, so just be aware. When it starts out with us in the past.
Yes.
And before we get, so you ended with Sophia holding a crowbar overlooking Vic and Mom dancing, and we opened to the past. And
Which really, okay, when that happened, first of all, I was like, I knew they were going to do this, but I hate that they did this, because there's nothing worse than you're watching a streaming show that's got, that's not an episodic show, it's serialized, and they have some huge dramatic moment happen, cut to credits, then when you come back the next week, oh yeah, we're going to just do a flashback this week. We're going to tease you and make you wait for another week. And,
no, for real. Stanley says it's refreshing. They represent Penguin as a villain. None of this crook with a heart of gold BS.
Oh yeah, this is not Wicked. This is definitely not Wicked. This is yeah. Penguin is, if anything, they're making him worse than you remember.
No, for real. But Ben One Eye goes, "Hey, isn't the whore the one who usually receives the money in exchange for love?" Oh, we know we're whores, so we're not even like it's okay.
Yeah,
I'm with you. Don't worry, Ben. But our hope is we deliver a good time worth it. That's all.
yeah.
So then we finally we got to meet the mobster that he was always talking about, the one who the neighbors all knew and the family and everybody all treated one way.
That everybody loved.
Yeah, we got to see him with the cigar and the whole bit. We get to see the archetype he's going for. And then him and his brothers go down and they play down in a very familiar area, which is where he set up base. And while there, his brothers, they don't really consider his situation, or at least they don't care. They're like kids will be.
Yeah.
And so Oz gets, in that moment, as we've proven before, he gets upset and slams shut this water drainage door as it's raining.
Yes.
So this entire area that's supposed to be for overflow floods, and the boys die. And so it's and Oz and it's funny. At first, I'm talking to my wife. I'm like, maybe he didn't understand. Maybe he did this. And then they do this move where he looks over his shoulder toward the door, and I'm like, bro.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, you want to think that it was an accident. You're kind of half expecting to show a scene where he's like trying to open the door and couldn't. Something. But no, he is straight up murdering his brothers.
Legit. And you're just like, what happened here?
Yeah.
Like, and all because he wants Ma. And you're like, what is up? And the whole thing didn't make a lot of sense until the end. And
I wish Danny were here right now, because Penguin is such a mama's boy that Danny would say, damn, Penguin's a mama's boy.
I love it so much. I do miss Danny too.
So
no, for real.
But that's some truth right there. I mean,
especially working on the archive stuff, I'm just like, oh my god, I'll track him down.
Yeah. So
but yeah, no, it's good stuff, and I love the when they so then they cut and Penguin walks into his place and Vic is clearly there. I hate you, creep. And Vic is unconscious. He's got his blood, and he wakes him up, and the whole thing. And then he sees Sal pulling up. It's all this really fast stuff. And we had a moment that I really dug. It's on the level, as far as I'm concerned, as just as sobering as him saying everything's going to be okay when he tells Vic, it gets easier.
Yeah.
He picks up Vic, and Vic's trying to tell him, I'm sorry. And he says, dude, F your sorries. No time for that. Go. Tell everybody on the list, get me an army. And he kicks him out and I'm like, do you realize the level of trust that in that one moment, he's like, we'll deal with you letting Ma get in trouble later. Nobody has time for that right now. Go. Like, you're the only connection I got to telling people what's going down. Get out, go do that. And I'm just like, oh, well, I think it's so real.
Yeah, it comes across. Vic is the one man that Oz actually trusts.
Yeah. Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
and so which is going to probably end up kicking him in the butt when Vic becomes Robin. But
Oh, I love it. Sarah says Colin Farrell making the OGs, Burgess Meredith and Danny DeVito proud. I absolutely think so.
yeah,
This iterate not because he's doing what they're, but like each of these people has brought something to the character that is so unique and so seminal. This
yeah,
version will stand right along those pillars. You know what I mean? And it's not about Burgess Meredith was cartoony and whatever. No, Burgess Meredith was perfect at the time,
yeah.
based on what Batman was at the time.
He
And
was
he's
Burgess Meredith was a comic book accurate for the 1960s comics.
yes.
You know. Now, Danny DeVito, to me, I didn't like the grotesqueness of the Penguin. I get that's what Burt
Agreed.
was going for,
Yeah.
but I think what this version of the Penguin shows is that he doesn't have to be grotesque to be grotesque. If
Agreed.
you know,
Stanley says, I think the heart attack was a bit silly. He's talking about when Salvatore and Penguin were in the middle of a fight, and all of a sudden Salvatore backs up and falls over. What did you think of that?
okay, so it didn't bother me actually, Stan, because you see, notice that Penguin then turns around and throws Salvador out the little trolley car they were in and shows everybody how he beat him. But in truth, there's no way that gimpy little Colin Farrell is going to be able to take him on.
No, but
And
what I liked, I guess what I liked,
I thought he lost the fight if it wasn't for the heart attack.
I agree 100% with you. But what I loved was, I think you're absolutely right. He without the heart attack, he's losing. But I feel like the fact that he got angry and he got
Yeah,
so
because he felt robbed out of the victory.
yes,
That he
and he
never
was
would have
so
had.
mad. And
Yeah.
it's like, if I'm gonna get, if he's like, I thought you were gonna beat me up. I thought you were gonna take me out. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, dude. It was,
And that's this is sure. I mean, my goodness, this is like Colin Farrell's magnum opus here. He is doing.
it really is.
I mean, I've liked Colin Farrell in a lot of things, but never have I been so involved in a Colin Farrell character like I am in this show.
Yeah, agreed. And I loved Sugar. I refuse to spoil it. Go see Sugar on Apple TV if you haven't seen it yet. He's amazing in it, and it's got a twist that'll knock your socks off.
Yeah. I mean, I actually like Colin Farrell in Total Recall, as bad as that movie was compared to
I actually did too.
yeah. I like
Tangentially, he felt like he was an extension of the character from what's the one with the Tom Cruise one where he plays a detective.
Minority Report.
Yeah, he just I don't know. I just like the way his
Oh
character.
yeah, he was really good in Minority Report
He was
too.
wonderful in that. That's
Yeah.
the first time I ever saw him. Creep says, was it a Fred Sanford heart attack? Creep, as a matter of fact, it absolutely was. He like backed up and he's like, "Ugh."
Yeah, this is the big one.
This is for real, and fell over. And that's
Coming,
what I got
Elizabeth.
mad about. Can you imagine?
Well, his
Oh,
wife
my
did
God.
just die. I mean, so he was like, "I'm coming, Elizabeth."
This is a great question. Stan asks, why do the pretty people always have to slum it to get accolades? I actually would let me see if I can get that first because I do want your opinion, Salty. I feel like it's got to do with the fact that when you're your Brad Pitts, your Angelina Jolie's when they were younger, they traded at first on the physical appearance, and then hopefully that lets you in to see their talent. Same thing with DiCaprio. And then over time, you see that character constantly. You see the pretty face, the pretty guy, whatever, to the point that they're like, I want to do more. I want to show I'm a real actor. So then they have to, that's how you get the dirty, gritty, grungy versions. And that's the stuff that makes the Academy go, oh, so you are more than a pretty face that can read lines well. Got it. And that's, I think, that plays into a lot of it.
And I'll say this: one word, precious.
Sure.
You know, that actress, she was absolutely phenomenal in that film. And did she become a big celebrity? No. Why? Because Hollywood wants to have a pretty person on the red carpet. It doesn't, whatever the person looks like on camera, they want a pretty person on the red carpet. If the actor is not a pretty person, then people aren't going to want to be that person. Like, nobody wants to look like the Penguin, but people wouldn't mind looking like Colin Farrell.
Agreed. I agree with that all day.
And so, I think that's honestly it's superficial, it's cheap and all that, but that's what Hollywood is. Hollywood is the land of superficial. And so, while an ugly person, and using the term in quotations,
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
but an ugly person can be perfect for a role, but they're not perfect for the studio.
No, I
And
got you.
yeah, and so
A quick
that's
little tidbit creep says here Red Fox actually died on set of a heart attack. It was actually on the set of a show, something called The Royal Family, and
I didn't know that.
his co-stars thought he was doing a bit.
That's sad.
It totally is. I'm like, I wait. So thank you, Creep, for bringing it down. No,
Yeah, and we're gonna wrap up the show with that. So
no, totally. It's like no, but
now the creeps ruined our day.
so then okay, so then I want to get into Sophia. We're
Yeah,
still talking about Penguin. Sophia, she gets into this like she's straight up girl bossing in a hard way, wonderful in a good, the best way. I know it's normally a term used as an epithet, but no, she was like, I loved what she was doing.
yeah,
And so then she hears that her niece, the one who survived, is wanting to talk to people. She saw something.
yeah,
She goes and visits her, and she basically lies to her face, tries to assure her that she's wrong about what she thinks she saw, and then she notices she's been doing some self-harm on her arm,
yeah.
scratches and stuff. And she asks, why would you, and it dawns on her, why would you do that? These people aren't worth that. And then she decides in that moment, because I listened to the podcast that interviewed the actress before or afterwards. And she says in that moment, she realizes I'm being like everybody else, and I don't care what it costs me. I'm going to tell this little girl the truth. And so she sits her down, she hugs her, and she says to her, she's like, you're not. This is going to confuse you, but your mother, your father, everybody, our whole family, they were all bad people, and they deserved it. And I am happy they're gone. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, but then she ends it with like, you're gonna go on. You're gonna find a nice family. You're gonna live a normal life. And all I could think to myself was, she's gonna grow up to be the huntress. That's all there is to it. So I'm like, whatever, man.
Well, I think that Sophia, yeah, she's grooming her to be the next generation, so to speak. By trying to convince her that, yeah, what happened to that family, yeah, it's all good. Because one thing that Sophia and Oz have in common is they have no regard for human life.
No, everything is expendable. Everybody is a matter of how do you use them to their own survival and their own part.
Yeah.
I agree. I
Yeah.
absolutely agree.
Um, Giving Dent the acid splash. Oh,
Oh,
because
Harvey Dent,
Maroney
Two-Face.
did he do the acid in?
Yeah, he's on trial, and
Yeah.
he's standing, and he's the one that's being put on the set.
Sorry, my
I
Batman
thought it was just
lore is.
Maroni. Was it actually? I guess it was Salvatore Maroni. At least it wasn't I knew it wasn't. Well, it's whatever. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
but, you're assuming that they couldn't do that in a flashback.
Agreed. You could totally do that in a
Like if,
flashback.
if in the Batman Part 2 or whatever they end up calling it, let's say they want to bring Two-Face in, they could have a flashback of the trial.
Thomas Potts asks, why would anyone live in Gotham? Thomas, I was born in New York, and I no longer live there. And I would ask also the same question: why are people still living there? Okay, I'm from there, and I don't want to go back. So and that's not nearly the cartoonishly bad level that that's like asking why people live in Baltimore or in Detroit.
Detroit seems more like Gotham to me, as far as like that's a
Which one?
city. Detroit.
Yeah, I'll go with
Detroit's
that.
really
My wife
falling
said
apart.
Chicago because she was there when they filmed the Chris Nolan movies, and I was like, no.
But I think Stan Lee's nailed it, though. It's because they can't afford to live in Metropolis.
That's right. That's right. Who could with all that futuristic buildings and stuff?
Yeah. The funny thing is, like, if you look at the Snyderverse, Metropolis and Gotham are like San Francisco and Oakland.
Yeah, they're literally twin
And
cities.
and that San Francisco was always like, not anymore, but this like beacon of a modern city on the bay. And then literally right across the bridge is Oakland, which, back in like the 70s and 80s was an absolute crap hole of a city. It was,
Tell me how you really feel.
Yeah.
That's
No,
awesome.
I grew up in Northern California,
I feel you.
and it's like Oakland was a place you did not go after dark, and so. Which the funny thing is that the one thing that Oakland was extremely well known for was Jack London Square, which is where a big theater was.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like, coincidence that the Waynes were shot at the theater?
Totally.
Yeah.
No, for real. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, so my whole thing is where do you think the episode's going? Because we know for a fact Sophia decides to get big balls and she blows up because she's decided she's not gonna play their game. Their game is revenge, kill, revenge, kill, revenge, kill. She's like, I'm done. We're putting a stop to it. I don't care about this thing anymore. I already got all the other nonsense in check. We'll figure this out. Take him out. And since he blows up the place, he survives. And she calls him up saying, you know where to find us. You know where we're at. Because she remembers the story he told about the night that his mom recovered from the boys' deaths and the party they went to. And that is the creepiest flashback at the end ever. His mom's dancing with him, and she proceeds to look at him and is like, you better make something of yourself because I deserve the best. And I'm like, what?
So you see where he gets his psychosis from.
Oh, absolutely. She fed that nonsense so hard. I'm like, because he already had an unnatural affection toward his mother, and now it's like, what is going on?
Freud would love
Oh, all day.
Oz. Yeah,
all
Freud
day.
would absolutely love Oz. But the so where do I think they're going? Like for the final episode?
Yeah.
Well,
Everybody who's seen it says it's epic.
right. Well, obviously we're going to get some kind of final confrontation between Sophia and Oz. But and I hope.
Yes, Stanley, very.
Yeah. I do. I think that. Honestly, I think that Penguin's mom is a goner.
Same.
I think that Sophia is probably going to die. But,
Really?
Yeah, because it's the only way to make Penguin the undisputed kingpin of Gotham. Is
I don't know,
because
man.
Sophia is the only major crime boss left.
I feel like you have. I don't know. Maybe that's possible. That's possible. But I feel like there's. I don't know why, but I feel like she's almost risen to a level that I could see her being something. Even if she's like, look, we're just because I could just see them being they're going to live that way, fighting back and forth. You know what I mean? Infighting constantly with the Penguin because the Penguin's going to be doing different stuff. He's doing it on a different level.
Right.
Than they're doing. They're doing the classic. Crime, running a city type stuff, and Penguin's like, no, man, I'm trying to go deeper than that.
So Stan, I don't know if they're only going to do one season, but this is supposed to lead directly into Batman 2.
Directly, like he literally said it should. I would not be surprised in the least if the final scene is him standing in either his new club or the old club as the boss.
Yeah.
Decked out. And outside the window, then you see the bat signal appear.
I do think that we're going to see his new club, or like you said, a renovated version of the old club.
Right.
Because, keep in mind, in The Batman, the club was a big part of that movie.
Yes.
And so I don't see any reason that you wouldn't have, like in The Batman Part 2, since there's always a club where all the evil people of Gotham seem to go.
All the evil people.
It'll just be Penguin's club and, instead of Falcone's. So, so I think that you think Sophia's going to end up in Arkham. That could be too. That would be a horrible fate for her. I could see Sophia in Arkham. But I do think we're going to finish it with Penguin firmly in control of the underworld. So that in the Batman 2, Batman, if he's trying to hunt down somebody in the underworld, will be going to Penguin. Basically to...
I could see him visiting him and being like, I'm back in town. You think you guys had free reign? Whatever. You know what I mean?
Or it's like let's say, I don't know, I haven't heard anything about what they're going to do with Batman 2. But
There's rumors because the only thing that was confirmed is it takes place in the winter. So everybody immediately went nuts. It was
Mr.
like,
Freeze.
Mr. Freeze, Mr. Freeze. It's like,
Well,
no.
Mr. Freeze is more epic during the summer, making it cold.
Yeah, but I don't believe they're gonna do Mr. Freeze. I believe that's too far in the stretch towards supernatural or comic booky. And
Right.
I feel
This
like
Batman is very grounded.
very grounded.
I mean,
Don't get me wrong,
yeah,
you could
Riddler
find an
was a
interesting
straight
way
up.
to
Yeah,
do something, maybe.
yeah, Riddler was a straight up serial killer right out of Seven.
Yes, Zodiac style 7.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So I could see them like bring in another serial killer type character because it's not going to be organized crime because that's Penguin's domain, and so I think it's going to be another killer on the loose. It could be Joker.
James Gunn has already debunked, if you trust them, that it's not going to be Joker that we saw we was teased in the deleted scenes from Batman.
Right, but it could be a different version of Joker. I'm just saying.
Sure, it could be something. Yeah, but
You know how coy these producers are. No, it's not the Joker that we teased in that deleted.
No, agreed. But
I'm
I'm
Joker
kind
that
of
they didn't tease in the deleted scene. You know,
I'm kind of hoping it wouldn't that they go. I would love to see one other really good take on a character before we go into the try to hit the ground running with the Joker. I do
what
think
if Sophia is actually the big bad of the next movie? Like she gets out of Arkham somehow, and then starts like wreaking havoc on what she sees as a corrupt system by eliminating people, and but whatever, and then how great would it be for Batman to walk into Penguin's office at the club and say, Sophia Falcone is out there doing things, and Penguin would be like, I'll help you, so.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. Okay. Stanley asked a great question. Oh, wait. Sorry, Daniel. I'm sorry, Daniel. I didn't see you first. Penguin gonna beat Sophia. Then in the movie, Batman beat Penguin. After that, there's gonna be a Joker series that will be beating the movie. Totally. Absolutely. That's exactly how it should go down.
I hope they keep Colin Farrell's Penguin around. I don't want to see him get locked up or beat down. Instead, I think that like Batman needs stability in Gotham right now, and Penguin gives that because he's already eliminated these other crime families.
Sure.
So I would like, and that could basically make it so that, and unfortunately, like I said, I wish this Batman was going to be part of the DCU, but he's not. But but you could have a Penguin series in between each Batman movie as a bridge between these movies, because we see the Cape Crusader in the big movie event, then we see what's going on in organized crime in between the films. And I think that could actually be an interesting, never before done kind of system.
I could see that. Yeah, why not?
And so I would rather that Batman and Penguin, like they don't, they're on opposite sides of the fence, but they both care about order in the city.
Arkham Breakout more likely for part 2 or 3. I think you build up one more movie with Arkham, and then you have Batman and like title it like Arkham or something, like Arkham Asylum or something like that. You give it that cool name.
Then everybody's going to think of the video game.
I know, but so then maybe that's what you're borrowing from. They have access to the full toy box of story ideas.
Yeah,
they can do anything they want. So if they want to borrow from the game, that's why not.
But definitely, I'm looking forward to the final episode this Sunday. That much is certain. So this has been an absolute masterclass on how to do a serialized short series.
I agree. Oh my God, I so agree. Which is, again, the British have been doing it forever, so I don't know why it's suddenly a new alien idea for us. But yeah. So overall, what do you think of this? I don't want to say rate because I know you don't do that, but what do you think? What did you think of the episode? Good?
If they stick the landing, this series is going to get like a 9 out of 10 easy from me.
I can see that.
So that's where it's trajectorying for me right now. Is that
Fair enough.
This is one of the most well put together serialized shows I've ever seen.
Right on, man. All right, so then and I agree, 100%.
Yeah.
All right, let's hit it and start talking Star Trek. Baby.
So you went underwater for a second for some reason.
Star Trek Lower Decks.
Yes.
Good
Now,
still.
okay, so I like the Picard opening.
Well, I love that too. How is that like soft in the background?
Yeah.
Even Baby Know It All goes, "What's going on?" And I was like, "That's awesome. This is
Yeah, and it's like the thing is that it's like everything else that McMahon does. There's a deep cut involved where
yeah."
you have this Picard credits opening, but it's set on Chronos. You know,
Which I
and
thought was cool because
yeah,
you got to see the
and
whole
so it's
process. And they show the whole thing,
yeah. So instead of Picard's vineyard, it's a blood wine vineyard.
which is great.
Yeah,
So, question: does blood wine come from the same worms as Gach or no?
I don't know. I don't think
Because
there's a
it looks so.
I
I'm
don't
like,
think there's a canonical answer to that.
okay, fine.
Um,
Sorry. I bet if it was about a timeline, you'd know about it. No,
well, yeah, but it's not part of the triple timeline. Sorry, Thomas.
there it
Um,
is. We need to start a drinking game. Every time he talks about triple timelines, it's like, all right, fine. I've already got more on theme. Take a drink of blood wine.
so this is episode 4, right?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, a farewell to farms, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Interesting title.
I thought it was fun. It was like, okay.
Yeah. Uh,
Also, a lot of our characters were backseat to the other things going on.
Yeah, this was actually kind of interesting because now the Klingons were, I'm trying to remember what episodes they were from, but there were 2 Klingons that were in prior episodes. There's the main guy, his brother, I think we meet him for the first time in this episode.
Yes, you're
But
correct.
then also the
Guy that was on the council.
yeah, the guy that was on the council is
That was her
from,
friend. That was in the season back in season 1. The guy he showed up. That was the one who showed up, and they had partied.
yeah.
She's supposed to go to a delegation, and they partied all night.
Yeah. Now, of course, they brought in the pain sticks from the Rite of Ascension.
Shame on you. I'm not putting that comment up. Shame on you.
For what? No. This,
Of course, now everyone's gonna literally just draw attention to it. It's even more.
well, you're the one. Okay, so yeah, we're not talking about politics, guys.
No,
Or is that not the comment you were
no,
talking about?
no. He made this comment about. Okay, I'm gonna put it up there. Screw it. Blood wine is made by Klingon women.
Jeez.
You're a bad man.
That is bad.
Bad. And he laughs. You're the worst, bro.
So
Anyway.
honestly, okay, so everything having to do with Mariner, Boimler, and the Klingon stuff, I thought was absolute lower decks gold.
Sure.
The story with
Dr. Miglino.
Doctor what's his name and the
Miglino.
bird food critics, I thought that
I'm like, what Rick and Morty left over was this?
that
The
I
Dr.
thought was
Miglino
stupid.
story
Oh,
made no sense to me.
Yeah.
Not that it made no sense. I get the story, but it was clearly in a completely different show.
yeah.
Like it didn't fit anything like what I mean. I get the whole like, well, now I'm proving that my psychiatry is valuable after all, and I'm like, okay, great. So the friends we made are the ones we made along the way. Got it. I don't know. The reward is that. What? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought it was weird.
Yeah, I didn't care for the B plot, and that's a funny thing that Star Trek really got into, starting with the Next Generation, and just can't let go of the idea that every episode needs an A plot and a B plot.
But the thing is, to me, those so years ago, a friend of mine did submit a script to Star Trek, and they were polite enough to send it back with notes. And they said, "Hey, we're not going to use it, but I wanted you to hear some. We figured you went to the trouble, so we're going to read it and hear some thoughts." And one thing it said was, "Your A plot and your B plot feel disjointed." I remember because it stuck with me. They shouldn't exist just to exist. They need to exist. If A is what you got and B is where you're coming, that's where you want to give us context to the theme. You know what I mean? So if the theme is about let's just for as an example, an alien species own racism. then maybe the B plot is about acceptance by two of the kids on the ship about something else. The two
They
things,
need to reflect each other.
right? The two things at least shake hands nicely and reinforce the overall. And I go, okay. And so that's always stuck with me as a writing tip. And you're right. The whole time I'm sitting here going, what does this have to do with anything at all?
Right, and this is just okay. We have a B plot because the A plot wasn't enough to fill the entire episode.
Yeah.
Which I think with a little bit more writing, you could have had the A plot fill more of the episode.
I agree 100%. A
Yeah.
plot for more of the episode. You could have had Mariner and what's his nuts in it a little more, Boimler or something. Because right now you have this Boimler's on this weird journey.
Well, notice he's got the full mustache going now, and he's working on that beard.
Working on that beard.
So I mean, I got to give him credit in that every episode his beard has come in a little bit more.
Right.
So I do like their consistency there. So
Have you seen online? Apparently, there's the trailer for this episode had some of the scenes with Boimler in it, and in the trailer, he does not have the beard and mustache.
Oh, really?
And I'm like that was a spoiler? Somehow, what part of the story are you spoiling that the promo having him with those things? And I guess maybe the idea is people wouldn't recognize that it's him, or I don't know. It was weird. It was very weird.
Yeah.
But apparently, yeah, those exist. That's out there. If you're looking for like when they first teased this last week, the trailer has Boimler with none of that.
So the real question is, how much will his beard be grown in by the end of the season?
Oh, okay, I thought you were going to ask, how much did it cost them to Henry Cavill his beard just for the trailer? Yeah, like really.
Well, in a cartoon, that's pretty easy. But
True, literally, yeah, no, for real. Just turn those layers off.
You know what would have been hilarious is if in the trailer they distorted his face to make it look like it was digitally removed.
Yeah, no, I can see that. Absolutely, why not? That's so fun. But next week, just to kind of throw a thought out there before we finish all this up.
Yes.
I will be doing my best to. I think we need to talk about D23. D23 dropped this week.
D23 already?
It's Brazil. D23 Brazil.
There's a D23 Brazil?
Apparently, I didn't know, but there is one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what do they show? Like, it's all Disney, but everybody has big butts and wears less clothes? Because it's Brazil.
I hate you so much. No, but every one of their displays is in Spanish.
Yeah.
Like people are there taking pictures all over and whatnot online, and you see that all the things are in Spanish. And I'm like, is this different than the D23 that happened? Because I know it hasn't been a year since the last D23.
Right. So it's only been a couple of months. So, but yeah, I don't know that there would be any spectacular new information to come out, but we can definitely talk about it.
Agreed.
They had growing food and eating food is what Stan says is the connection. That's a pretty weak connection.
Very weak connection, but I get it, I guess.
Ooh, and Arabic, yeah. You should know better than this. Consider your heritage. It's Portuguese, not Spanish, buddy.
Yeah, whatever. I don't care. It doesn't matter. We're all kidding me. I thought that's like people saying Mexican is Spanish. It's not. It's Mexican, which is a combination of Indian dialects mixed with Spanish. But nobody cares, so whatever.
And and Ben One Eye, who today's show is dedicated to, also corrects you on that.
If someone speaks to me in Portuguese, I can follow more or less with them if they just start speaking, because it's very close to a lot of the phrases and terminology and stuff. Sure. And I'm not Brazilian, but I'm Puerto Rican, whatever. And clearly we have thick skin, so whatever.
Yeah.
One Eye, same difference. Stanley, stop it! That's awesome.
So yeah, I always hated that expression. Same difference. What does that even mean?
6 and 1/2 the other.
No, because 6 to 1/2 a dozen of the other is saying that two things are the same. But to say it's the same difference is like it's like saying it's the square circle. It doesn't make any sense.
I hear you.
It's a nonsensical
This is
statement.
the kind of hard hitting discussions we have here.
Yeah.
You know, 1 second, because I think there's only one thing appropriate.
And
Please
Arabic.
tell us, sir. Tell us about it. Go ahead. Go
So,
ahead.
huh?
You were angry about you were getting fired up, so go
I'm
ahead.
fired up because I don't understand what the same difference means. That's all. I don't. Somebody explain it to me. Um, but yeah, but English is a messed up language. I will give you that. That's all.
Totally. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
which is you kidding?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, but Arabic is a Mexican American. So does that mean that you're an American from Mexico?
Isn't that usually what that means?
Well, I always hated it's so funny because I was showing this to my wife. She'd never seen it before, but it's so true. Like George Carlin was talking about how demeaning it is to call black people African Americans because an Egyptian is an African, but an Egyptian is not black. Right? A South African can be a white racist who could then come over to America, call themselves an African American just to piss off the black people in America.
True. 100% true.
So,
You said nothing false there.
Yes. But anyway, no, and Arabic says, no, I'm Hispanic, born in the USA. Then you are not a Mexican American, my friend. All right. You know what? I don't walk around saying I'm an Irish. I don't walk around saying I'm an Irish American just because my grandparents came over on the boat from Ireland.
Still get us to a political discussion of some sort. How did you do that?
I didn't. But this is technically true. Elon Musk is an African American.
Yes.
That is true. Someone who moves from Africa to America becomes a citizen. That's an African American.
Fair enough. That's fair.
All right. Someone who moves, who sneaks in the middle of the night over a wall from Mexico to the United States, that's a Mexican American.
Real quick, before we get too far off base, the very end of the episode of in Lower Decks, they do very quickly connect another station.
Yes, they're like, oh, by the way, we're here to look at the anomaly.
There happens to be this information that has to do with the overall plot of the series, but whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, and it's like, and the only thing we get out of it, and someone said they didn't say anything about it. Not true. They did establish in this episode that the anomalies appear to be artificial in nature.
Dude, I told my wife, I told Michelle all, I believe firmly they're gonna all good things us. We're gonna get to the end of the season and it's gonna be them having to create the thing to cause it to stop being whatever. Like they're gonna have to do it. Like in how All Good Things, he had to like be in the far-flung future to start the anomaly, and then by the way in the prehistoric time it was huge. I'm telling you, they're gonna All Good Things this because they're trying to go out big.
Well, you know what I think would be hilarious if they do this? Is let's say they have the Cerritos from different timelines and stuff trying to do something very similar to All Good Things. Sure. Because, of course, Boimler knows all about what happened at All Good Things. And so he's like, that's what we got to do is create an anti-time anomaly, right?
Well, you can see that.
Yeah, and so they're trying to do this. But, and this I think would be absolute gold if they did this. And I would kiss the feet of Mike McMahon if he actually did this, right? Is that if in one of the realities where they're using the deflector dish or whatever to create the magic beam to create the anti-time anomaly.
The magic beam? Got it.
Because that's all it is. I mean,
whatever. Yeah, no, I got you.
Yeah. So what if in one of the realities is live action, Strange New Worlds, they take Pike and his Enterprise to help?
That would be awesome, actually. I'd love that.
That would be so funny to bring that back full circle from the guest appearance.
Yeah. Let something. The whole season has little callbacks to every season. Yeah. That would be amazing. That would be amazing.
So
I would absolutely love that. I would love that so much. Yeah, man.
And you know, in All Good Things, they were looking out the view screen at the other Enterprises. And they look out the view screen on Pike's Enterprise, and they see these animated ships.
Oh my God, that'd That would be awesome.
Yeah.
What if you saw a real live action Cerritos?
And a live action Cerritos, yeah, that
How
would be
cool would that be to see a live and you get everybody to you give everyone one shot, just put everybody in an outfit, and it gets to be them being them. Oh, stop it! I would love that.
and just to make, here's how you really piss people off, right? So you see the one live action Cerritos with all these animated ones, and Pike's like, "Get me that ship," I hail that ship, right? And so the thing pops up, and you see Mariner and Boimler, and then like you just see off, like somebody's shoulder here, somebody's leg there, so you can't quite see them. Because the rest of the cast,
the camera's like got just enough depth of field where you can't
right, and you have Boimler say, "Captain Pike, I've got to," and then the ship blows up.
Oh my god, that would be awesome. That'd be great. Right on, man.
So,
see, there you go, making better shows again. So, anyways, all right, guys, tell us in the comments and continue to conversate. Tell us below what you guys think about the new episode of Lower Decks. Did it meet your expectations? Did it not? I was okay, and this was the first episode of the season I thought did something interesting.
I thought this was the best episode of the season.
Yeah,
so far.
Same.
But I still think that B plot really needed a rewrite. It was bad.
Yeah, for sure.
So yes, Satan is trapped in the center of the universe according to the TOS cartoon. No, Satan is trapped in the center of the galaxy according to the TOS cartoon. However, in Star Trek V, it's the God Monster. So yeah,
God Monster.
Yeah, you remember the God Monster from Star Trek V?
Of course.
You don't remember Satan from the animated series?
No.
Yes, Satan. No joke. In the animated series, the Enterprise goes to the center of the galaxy in order to explore what they think is there, and they end up going to they're getting sucked into another dimension where they meet up with Satan, who's like becomes their buddies. Meanwhile, all the angels there get pissed off, and Kirk and Spock learn magic and have a Hogwarts battle with the angels in order to save Satan. And at the end of the episode, Spock comments that Kirk saved Satan.
What show was this, and how did I never see it?
It's called The Magic of Magus 2. It's an episode of the animated series.
Right on.
And yeah. So yes, Kirk literally saves the devil.
Okay, well, that explains a lot. I wonder if that was his impetus behind Star Trek V. He's like, we're gonna go back to the center of the universe and forget that.
Yeah, but that's the funny thing is, this is the center of the galaxy, and then Star Trek V, it's like, we're going to go to the center of the galaxy and find God, who turns out to be an evil monster, aka Satan. So,
legit, and exactly. And then, or as Stan said earlier, what does Satan need with a starship?
Yes.
So, anyway.
Yeah.
Oh man! All right, guys. So this is the part of the show we're going to open up the floor to you guys and say, "Hey, man, let's talk about whatever's going on."
Yeah.
I know that I have been
except politics. We're not talking about politics.
For the love of God, I need one place where it's just good old fashioned us talking about stupid nonsense.
Yes.
Other than talking about that stupid nonsense. So
we could talk about the original series episode, The Apple, in which a bunch of orange-skinned guys are feeding a space monster. I mean,
thank you so much. And then, so I've been watching. So, if you're a wrestling fan, there's an animated show that's on Max called like The Invincible Wrestling Girl or something, around a Fight Girl or something. It's based on a comic book I found out. It's really good. It's hyper exaggerated. It has very anime flair, but like imagine an American style anime.
What is with you people in wrestling? Wrestling sucks.
No. I'm not saying about. I could care less. That's just the vehicle this show is taking, and it's really because it allows it to do some cool things. It's a
Invincible
world
fight
where like hero people are wrestling is like the national pastime in this world.
Right.
And this girl was born on a place that only ever has accountants, and she wants to be a wrestler. And because she saw years ago when she was a child, she saw like a young child, she saw this one female wrestler that inspired her and whatever else. And so it's surprisingly good. And I watched it because I was bored. I was waiting for the family to come downstairs. It was like 22 minutes long. I was like, yeah, I'll watch this, whatever. And it ended up being really like if you like anime, this is like an American-made anime, which I thought was
And
cool.
there's only 2 episodes out right now, so
Right now, yeah.
good time to get into it. Episode 1: In a world inhabited by wrestlers, a young accountant in training dreams of life beyond her humble home on Accountant Isle.
How can you not love this already?
Huh?
Or as our good friend
I just went to Max
Colombo
and
said, "Oh,
just,
isn't that nice?"
I just logged into Max and brought up the details.
There it is.
And you see, I see why he likes it is because the subtitle languages include Portuguese.
There you go. Well, yeah, I speak Spanish.
Yeah, that's it. You know what'd be funny? It's like if the Portuguese subtitles and the Spanish subtitles are actually the same.
Dude, that would be bad. That would be bad. I could totally. That'd be
And they'd be
horrible.
like, it's the same difference.
It's right.
It's
That's awesome.
like people that can't tell the difference between Irish and Scottish, you know.
No, there's a big difference there. One has red hair, the other drinks a lot. Wait, what?
Yeah. No, actually, the biggest difference I think is one, their skirts are plaid,
Yes.
and the other,
They're not called skirts, they're called kilts.
and then the other, their skirts are green.
Wait, plaid you can't have green plaid?
Well, but you can have green plaid, but you also have a solid green print.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. No, actually, the funny thing is that the kilts started in Ireland, not Scotland.
This is true.
And the Picts, because the Scots are actually, there was a colony of Irish that settled in Scotland, and they thought the Pict women were really hot, so they started like interbreeding with the Picts, and they became the Scots. And the thing is that the leader of this colony was a guy named Scott. His last name was Scott.
You're a liar.
No, I'm deadly serious, dude. I am Scotch Irish through and through. I know this. And so this is actual true history, is that there was an Irish colony led by a man named, I think it might have been Walter Scott, but I'm not 100% sure. But it was led by a guy whose last name was Scott.
Okay.
And they merged with the Picts, who were actually the blue painted people that defeated the Roman Empire. Those are the Picts, not the Scots. And then, you don't know about that?
I'm listening.
Okay.
I'm
There's
absorbing all this.
yeah. The Picts were the most ferocious warriors the world has ever known. They would literally get high, paint themselves blue, and
Let's go.
then charge into battle. That was
That's how I like to do it.
yeah. And so the Romans, the Roman Empire was the most fearsome military force of their day, right?
Hey, he says I'm Mexican Irish American because my grandfather was Irish.
Wow, that's messed up.
Okay, things you expected Salty to say in that moment. Not that.
Yeah.
Not that.
But no, check this out. So the Romans had like this badass military, right?
Right.
Okay. The Romans were so freaked out by the Picts that they literally built a wall from coast to coast across northern England to keep the Picts out of the empire.
Damn. Hold on a second. Look, let me tell you right now. First thing we're going to do, we're going to build this wall.
Yeah,
We're going to make the Picts
exactly.
pay for it.
I didn't say it. I didn't say it.
Right across the...
We're
Come
gonna
on!
we're
It's
gonna
a
make
joke,
the Picts
man.
pay for it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's go, man.
But there
That's
is
hilarious.
actually there are remnants of that wall still
Oh,
there.
that I believe. No, I've heard. I've heard. Like
Yeah.
you can follow, and you can find whole stretches where it's crumbling, but you can find stretches where it's there still.
Yeah, but the wall was because the Romans were scared of these freaky blue drugged out nut jobs that would just charge in with no fear of death. But yeah, so then the Picts and the Irish basically interbred and became what we call the Scots.
Ben, we used to like you. Stop it. No. Hey,
I'm in
real
love
quick.
with the final season of
There it
LD,
is.
though my good friend Steve Shives stated that he isn't a fan of that show. He prefers TAS.
Mainly, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. Let's have a quick discussion. I'm not fighting or arguing because I don't. I haven't watched enough. I have seen it. I have seen some of them, but I haven't watched enough to have like an opinion. I've seen like the Giant Spock episode and a couple others that were brought up for a while back. In response, they came up into the Zeitgeist again in response to stuff Lower Decks was doing. That's when I watched them on
Right.
Paramount. So what is your thoughts when you compare the two things?
They're two very different shows. I think that the as far as Star Trek comedy is concerned, Lower Decks reigns supreme. And by the way, I don't even think I used to think Lower Decks was satire. I don't anymore. I can, I don't have a problem with it being a canonical Trek show. It's
Really?
no, I don't.
I don't either, but I find that fascinating because
Well,
there's
because the way I look at it is that you have Boimler and Mariner, the main characters, and both of them, while, okay, Boimler is just a little incompetent physically, right? Mariner is very aloof with her attitude about things. But both of them are huge fans of Federation history, particularly the greats of Federation history, which would mean Pike, Kirk, Picard,
Sure.
Archer. So these are people that they look at kind of, and a perfect segue here, kind of like what I was just talking about, going into all the nerdyisms of the Romans building a wall to keep out the Picts because it's it's a part of history that I find really interesting. They see the same thing when they look at events that happened in what we call, from our external God perspective, the original series or Next Generation or Deep
Sure.
Space Nine. To them, that's just history.
right.
But because they're not honestly hardworking, perfect Starfleet officers, they're on a crappy ship in a crappy assignment, and they goof around a lot.
Sounds valid.
And so they're just they're sent on real missions. And if you think about it, some of the stories that we see on Lower Decks are genuine Star Trek stories.
Agreed. I will agree with that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
they're just Star Trek stories that are resolved by like, we're used to seeing the best of the best, and now we see the other guys.
That's hilarious.
You know.
Now we see the other guys.
Yeah.
Ben One Eye says Lower Decks is aimed at adults, while TAS was a Saturday morning show.
Right. Now, the animated series, by contrast, is a much more serious show.
Sure.
And the animated series is really almost like a fourth season of the original series.
And that's how the writers approached it. They approached it as a fourth season that they had more of a budget on because you could draw almost anything.
Right. It was half the time, but unlimited budget.
Right.
And so you could create bizarre aliens and, giant 50-foot Spocks running around, and, aliens with 75 tentacles running around, which, by the way, they really use a lot of tentacles on that show. Like, if you haven't seen them yet, look at my shorts called Journey Through Trek when I talk about the animated series.
That's why I said I knew you were going to do that.
Yeah, almost every episode of the animated series involves tentacles. Why? I don't know. I think that hentai was.
You may have just opened up a whole new audience to Star Trek the Animated Series.
Yeah,
That's
I think
all I'm saying.
hentai actually got its start on Star Trek the Animated Series.
Japanese kids were suddenly like, huh.
Yeah, we could do that.
I want to do something with this.
And okay, so Arabic, when I say unlimited budget, because yes, you're right, the animation quality was Funimation animation. They were known to be a low budget studio, and the animation was crap in comparison to what we consider great animation.
Right.
However, what I mean is they could make an alien that had like, you remember the episode By Any Other Name. That's where the Kelvins come over from Andromeda. and take over the Enterprise to take the Enterprise back to Andromeda to lead an invasion force. And when Spock does a mind meld briefly with one of the Kelvins, he describes them as being these immense beings with 75 tentacles, and their brains were so advanced that each tentacle could do a different function at the same time.
Yep.
And so that's amazing, crazy sci-fi out there stuff that they could not do in a practical way on set. And so instead the Kelvins just say, yeah, we decided to look human because your ship is going to be designed for humans. You know, but in the animated series, you can show that. Even if it's not animated well, you can have Vendorians or the plant guys that have, a bunch of tentacles sticking out in every direction.
That's why suddenly on the bridge, like 2 entirely different species officers showed up.
Right, you have Goat Boy, as I like to call him.
I remember.
It's actually Eric's, I think.
Yeah. And then the cat Nick.
Yeah, but Eric's has 3 arms and 3 legs.
One of his arms comes out of his chest.
Right. You couldn't do that in live action back then. Right. And in fact, in many ways, you could say that Eric's was kind of a precursor to 8472.
Yes, I could see that. That makes. Oh my God! Can you imagine? You find out that's where they got the idea from.
Yeah. Or that somehow they're distantly related.
Oh, okay. I can see that. Yeah. I can see that.
And then
Pictures of Goat Boy and Cat Girl.
Yeah, and Cat Girl, also known as Lieutenant Emrys, was another one that you couldn't really do in the live action show because the makeup would have been insane back in the 60s to do. Which again, you could do it today, but at the same time, I just think making the big eyes and the cat ears and all that is easier to do in animation.
That was me. Sorry.
Yeah.
But I mean that's what you meant by ultimate budget, and I agree.
Yeah.
Also, how many new ships we saw that were not, new ships, new space stations.
We got our first look at Federation ships that were not Constitution class starships.
Yep.
Things like the cargo haulers that we saw. Oh gosh, what's the episode in that? The More Troubles, which, by the way, it also shows one of the big weaknesses of the show is that for some reason William Shatner couldn't remember how to say Quattro Triticale, and so they called it Quinto Triticale in the animated series. And it's so jarring when
it's funny. It almost feels racist, even though there's not. Like the way he does it, you're like
against different races of grain.
You're just no. But I think it's just like, why does it sound like an offense? Like it should be offensive.
Yeah, you're just Quinto Triticale to my Quattro.
Right? Like okay. Somewhere in Africa.
Same thing with the Orions versus the Orions.
The Orions?
Yeah, the Orions. Which I did love how they explained that in Lower Decks. So
absolutely. That's how you do it.
Yeah. So and that's the thing. Like Lower Decks actually makes an in-canon fixes a stupid problem from the animated series, and it works in canon. There's nothing to say. Just like humans are not all the same color. Who says Orions are?
What if they do? I'm gonna tell you right now. Ready? Stay with
me. In Orion live action.
Give me all your thoughts right here. All of it. I want all your attention on this. What if we get to the end of the season, and it's a 2-part ending that ends up revealing that there are 3 timelines, and it tries to correct the whole thing. What if that? Would you just lose it? Would you lose it?
I would love it, but Thomas would forever be saying how Lower Decks is not canon.
I'm just like, would your head explode? Like, I guarantee you, I would just be like, oh, I would lose my mind.
Yeah, you know what they could do is like have all these quantum fissures and stuff with all these different realities, and then when they all shoot their magic antimatter beam into the thing,
which fixes everything,
it brings it down to just 3 timelines.
That's the way to go, man. That's how it goes. Oh my God, I would love that so much. I would just it would be vindicating on a whole other level you can't even think of. Like seriously, it would be like, what? Oh my gosh.
That would be the best ending to a Star Trek series
It
ever.
would be. It would be. All
And of
right.
course, Mike McMahon, who does watch our show,
Good friend of the show, Mike McMahon.
yes, at the very end, it would fade to black and it would say, "For Salty."
Yeah. Bro.
Yeah, you know.
Little tear.
And yeah,
Little
just
tear goes down your eye.
on my cheek.
Whatever, he's gone off to do Vision Quest or whatever for Marvel, which I'm like, he grew up. They discovered him. Why didn't you lock him down,
Wait,
Paramount?
Mike McMahon's going to work on Vision Quest?
He's the executive producer.
I did
No,
not
he's not.
realize.
No, he's not. No, he's not.
I
He's
thought it was
working-
someone else.
That's right. No, it's dude who the other guy who did Picard. Mike McMahon's going to go work on another animated series that I'm hearing rumors of. That sounds like it's going to be really good. But yeah, that's my mistake. Sorry, ignore me.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I say things I'm not supposed to. Don't worry about it.
So Eric says Eric's reminds him of a Kelpian. You know what it could be is
Let me see that.
what if Eric's people okay, the 8472 kidnapped some Kelpians and then they had relations and we end up with Goat Boy.
I hate you so much, bro. We end up with Goat Boy. What am I going to do with you, man?
Well, you know.
No, Goat Boy. Mike meeting is the annual. Yeah, because we have one of those, an annual Mike meeting. Totally.
Well, you know, it's true. You're not supposed to talk about it. We don't talk about the Mike meetings outside of the Mike meetings. So,
You just not talk about Mike meetings at the Mike meetings.
yeah. But, you know, unfortunately, there's a hierarchy of mics, and I am fairly low in that hierarchy compared to McMahon. You know, so Mike
Who
Tyson.
says?
Huh?
Who says you're only as big as you think you are?
The Council of Mics determines that.
The Great Council of Mikes.
Yes.
I love it. The Mike meeting is an annual get together of all mics in the world. I can see that.
Yeah, you know, so, you know, because, I mean, let's be real.
He knows he's an insider.
Yeah, you got Michael Jordan, Michael Caine, Michael Phelps, Michael Bublé, Michael Jackson, Michael
Those are
J.
just the ones
Fox,
you can
Michael
think of off the top of
Keaton,
your head.
you know, Michael B. Jordan, you know, Michael Sheen, Michael Fassbender, Michael Douglas, you know, so there's a whole lot of Michaels that go ahead of me.
I think Aravic brings up a good point, especially for we talk about 3-armed aliens. The President of the Galaxy in Hitchhiker's Guide has 3 arms.
That is true.
That's right.
He also has 2 heads.
Oh, there you go. Mike Myers, Aravic points out.
Yeah, Mike Myers.
That's a huge one. That's a big one right now. Especially, that's a big one on 2 fronts. 1, Halloween. 2, it's a Kirk face.
It's a Kirk face?
Shatner, that's his mask. That's a
Oh,
mask.
yeah, that's true.
It's a William Shatner mask that made the Michael Myers face. And I'm like, there you go, bro. That's it.
Michael Hall, do you remember who that is?
Wasn't he who
Dexter.
Right. Yeah.
Which,
Michael
by the way,
Jai
have
White?
you seen they're doing a new Dexter series?
Yeah.
With like young Dexter. And Michael Hall is not playing Dexter, but he is playing the inner monologue of Dexter.
But great. So they're giving us this. We're getting the young Sheldon of Dexter.
Yes.
Wow, that's great.
So, you know, get ready for that.
Well, and also, a friend of mine was talking about that. He said, "Well, how are you gonna, why do this?" And I guess you kind of learn a lot from it.
Oh, no, Eric, Michael Burnham has been excommunicated from the council.
Stop it.
No,
Kidding me?
all
She
the
went into the
mics-
future and became the leader of the council.
Only if she transitioned to be a man, because it's a requirement that you be a man to be on the council.
I don't know this, Michael.
It's a sexist policy, but you know, for some reason, it's withheld.
What about Michaels from other countries that are pronounced Michel?
They're not allowed either.
Really?
Well, because Michel is the French pronunciation, and the French are inherently inferior.
So they have their own little group, and it's just them with the little beanies.
No, their group just surrendered to us.
Wow. Thank you so much. Fine, you win. Fine.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what they said.
That's what they said.
We're like, you can't join our group. They're like, okay.
They're like, all right, well, whatever. It's fine. I wasn't trying to.
Um, but the yeah, so the Council of Monks, that's a real thing, I guess. And by the way, most of the Michaels that you think are dead aren't, because we're all immortal. Like Michael Jackson, not dead.
No?
No.
Nice.
It's the problem though is that he does look like a pile of silly putty.
Oh my God! Hold on. Stanley just blew my mind. He goes, I think they'll just eliminate the animated universe at the end of the season. Like the Lower Decks reality will somehow get sacrificed in a multiversal seething or meeting, whatever.
Well, they are Tawny Newsome, who plays Beckett, is talking about she's going to be doing a live action Star Trek comedy series. You're muted. I don't know if you know that.
Yes, I was talking to my wife off of camera. Thank you, though.
Oh, okay. So Tawny Newsome, who plays Beckett, is they've already said is working on a.
But is she the same character or not?
We don't know, but if she's playing Beckett, it could be that somehow the Lower Decks world gets merged into one of the live action universes. I mean, we already know that they're actually technically the same. It's just that if you drink too much Orion booze, the world appears to be animated.
That's hilarious.
Maybe Beckett gets off the sauce.
It's off the sauce. First off, thank you, ye old man, for that expression that we haven't heard in forever.
Wow.
Oh no, Arabic had the much better. It will end up being a holodeck program with Riker and Troy on the Titan, but it's an animated Titan.
Or it's a holodeck. See, they should do like a holodeck within a holodeck within a holodeck.
And you find out it's actually just the program that Moriarty's running?
Yeah, of course they did that in Very Short Treks. Do you remember that?
Yes, I did.
That was actually pretty funny.
I did enjoy that.
Yeah. The Very Short Treks. Look, I like when people can stop trying to take themselves too seriously. And I love Star Trek, and I want serious Star Trek, but at the same time,
I want serious Star Trek.
Well, no, I'm saying, I like Strange New Worlds a lot.
Same.
And I like the original series, ITNG, Deep Space Nine, Enterprise, sometimes Voyager, and but that doesn't mean that Star Trek is my life, and so
is that your jam?
Huh?
It's not your jam?
It is my jam, but it's not my life.
Fair enough.
And I think that people that take it too seriously and can't poke fun at the things that are obviously wrong with Star Trek need to take a pill. And so the very
need
short
to take a pill.
I like what the Very Short Treks did. I like what Lower Decks has done in taking some of the wind out of the sails.
Yeah, I think I can see that. Yeah, that makes sense. And again, I've never seen it as disrespectful. There's people out there who do think it's full on. There are people. And by the way, one of the I don't understand how you can. Why is it offensive? Is it? And why would people think it doesn't translate into that medium? Because of the model that the TAS gave us. I don't understand. It makes it. Right. That's one of those things that when I begin to hear that argument, I sit here and I say, well, what do we? Why? It really just and usually the response is something along the lines of, oh, we're too lazy and people generic, vague thing, and I'm like, wait, but sounds like these are subjective opinion problems, which I'm down for, but just own that it's your opinion. Well, I don't have a reason; it's just my preference. Okay, cool, I'll respect that. It's when people go overboard where it's like it's objectively bad, and you're like, wait, what?
And the problem is that if you want, there's nothing about Lower Decks that you can't find elements of in other Star Trek shows. I'm sorry, you think Lower Decks is silly and stupid and all that. It's like, okay, fine. Then do me a favor, watch back to back The Trouble with Tribbles, The Way to Eden, and The Children Shall Lead. And then, by the way, let's go to the animated series where Satan was at the center of the galaxy, and then let's skip forward to TNG and some of the silliness that happened there.
True.
Let's go to when Quark was surgically altered to be a woman, and I mean there are stupid, silly things in every Star Trek series. It's just that Lower Decks focuses on it, and so it's not that I don't think that you're gonna find anything in Lower Decks that is demonstrably worse than what you can find in the other shows.
No, I think it's when you hear that the showrunner came from Rick and Morty and things
Yeah.
like that. You have a sense or a feel that it's not going to be respectful or reverent. My thing is, why do we have to be respectful or reverent? This isn't the Bible. This isn't religion. It's freaking a 22-minute comedy animation.
Right. But
And
even
frankly,
so, I
they're
think
making the jokes we make as fans all the time.
right, and I think it actually is. Yeah, by the way, Worf's love of prune juice is a running gag that's been going for decades.
Amazingly, yeah.
You know,
Because it's
and
a
it's
warrior's
stupid.
drink.
It was stupid from the beginning, and it's still stupid. But even in Picard, he was drinking prune juice.
Yes, he was.
You know, so but yeah, I think. But the thing is, I think that Lower Decks, and this is where I get kind of a little, feisty with some of the people that hate the show, is that I think that Lower Decks is very respectful of the source material
I agree.
because you see things like the fact that they took the time to like when was the last time you saw a Vendorian? You know, sorry, it was the 1970s, and the animated series is the only time they've ever been seen before.
Yeah.
We get the correction of the Orions. We get all these deep cut things that only a true diehard fan would even stop to recognize.
Remotely understand. Yeah, agreed.
Like I'm trying to remember, there was a deep cut from this last episode.
Planet X says Lower Decks is so good because it's both funny and respectful of canon lore at the same time, and also obviously written by actual Star Trek fans.
Yeah.
Here, Planet X. Agreed.
And that's kind of why, where I was comparing, and I know some people hate that I do this, but like when I was comparing it to Spaceballs, in that Spaceballs, while don't get me wrong, Spaceballs is funny and all that in its moments, but Spaceballs was not clearly written by people who love Star Wars. It was written by comedy writers, and don't get me wrong, obviously Mike McMahon and his team are comedy writers, but they're comedy writers that love Star Trek.
Ben One points out, we got Locarno back, bro.
Yeah.
Like, come on. I'm with you, by the way. Like, it's
And
like,
by the way, the fact that Locarno is sitting there giving his ultimatum, and what do we get? We get Boimler and Rutherford arguing about whether he looks like Tom Paris.
he sort of looks exactly like him.
I don't see it, man. I don't see it.
I love that. I love that
Yeah.
so much.
Okey
Oh,
dokey.
Strange New Worlds resurrecting the Gorn. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, and the fun, people get pissed off because the Gorn don't look exactly like they did in the original series. So you want a guy in a paper mache suit? Is that what you want?
Vulcans don't look like they did in the original series either. We've got a little better
Klingons
at making
don't look
pointy-
like they looked in the original series.
No, they were using like theatrical Lord of the Rings ears type thing, like elf ears, when they came up with that. So whatever.
So yeah, I mean, Klingons went from guys with greasy Mexican makeup, and just to not to sound like I'm stereotyping, that's what they were trying to do, and is to make them just look
To make them look like what they was assumed.
yeah, and so they went from that to looking quite alien when we saw Star Trek: The Motion Picture with zero explanation.
No, Stanley asked, by the way, what was the name of the top Klingon in this thing?
Martok.
His name was forgettable because I don't remember either.
What they mentioned Martok.
No, that's one. He wasn't the head guy though.
As far as the guy on that little council.
Yeah.
Now I remember the deep cut that I was thinking of.
Go for it.
Was I think it was no, it wasn't Boyle. It was one of the other guys. They mentioned Kalis.
Yes.
And then, but here's the deepest deep cut of all the deep cuts ever. You ready for this?
Go for it.
He said, the original one, the one that could do impressions.
I love that.
And at first, I was like, huh? And then I remembered, help me, Spock. Help me, Spock. Because the Kalis on the original series did perfect impressions of Lincoln and Surak.
Yep. No, but I did 2 impressions. Oh my god. I love that so much.
That's how deep the deep cuts go on Lower Decks.
Yeah. No, that's real.
And,
That's real.
the fact that I had to stop and think about it, and I'm a huge fan of the original series,
Yeah.
that's awesome. But yeah, Lower Decks is probably one of the most reverent Star Trek shows there is. They just are funny while doing it. But that's sorry. The most popular Star Trek film, Star Trek 4, the comedy one.
Star Trek 4. I love Star Trek 4.
Yeah, that's because you're not a real Star Trek fan.
Whatever. Lies. That was
Real
awesome.
Star Trek fans like Star Trek 2.
I love Star Trek 2 also. I didn't say it was my favorite. I said I loved it.
Yeah. Which, by the way, is interestingly enough, Gene Roddenberry hated Star Trek 2.
Really?
Oh, famously.
Why?
He hated Star Trek 2 and Star Trek 4 because they depicted Starfleet as the military.
How did Star Trek 4 show as the military?
Or not Star Trek 4, Star Trek 6, I mean.
Oh, 6, okay.
2 and 6, which are the
That's
two Nicholas
stupid.
Myers.
They were the closest thing to them. There was no armed military for hold on. Military for who?
For the Federation, of course.
Starfleet is the military arm.
No,
of the
no,
Federation.
Starfleet is like Greenpeace, because Greenpeace has nuclear missiles on all of their boats.
No kidding. The whale ship was supposed to be a probe. Was it? Yeah.
Well, they call it a probe.
But that's only because a signal was being
Yeah,
sent.
but a probe is simply anything that goes into an unexplored area, So, remember, if you look at episodes like the Immunity Syndrome, when the Enterprise goes into the hole in space, which laughably, Star Trek The Next Generation sees the exact same hole in space, and Data says there's no record of anything like this ever, which I always love that. But because they even call it a hole in space in TNG, which is what they called it in the Immunity Syndrome. But anyway, Kirk even says they're going to probe into this area. So the Enterprise itself is a probe at that point.
Yeah, I can see that. That makes sense.
Yeah. So probe is a term that is actually more of an action than it is a definitive object. They do have probes that they use, but probe is also something you do.
Stanley asked, but there's never any discussion of who sent it. There was a book.
Yeah, but canonically, there's nothing.
No, but unless otherwise stated, you live with what the information you have is. So to answer the question, there's the answer that exists in a book.
It's just a planet populated by humpback whales.
And it's what's her name? The character of Savick is actually on the mission she gets sent off on a mission to follow the back and see if they can track where it came from.
I still like the idea that it's a planet populated by humpback whales.
You get there, it's just, I was just trying to place a collect call.
My back, it's killing me. So that's all. That's what almost every whale song translates to. My back, somebody get these barnacles off me.
That's awesome.
But yeah, honestly, the whale probe was just the worst MacGuffin. I mean, it was just they took a big cylinder, painted it black, and threw it on screen. It's like, really? That's your design? Okay. And why? No, they don't have to be super evolved, Stan, because the humpback whales on Earth are just colonists from the humpback whale planet.
They're not. You think they were trying to contact their colonists?
Why else would they be communicating with them?
Because they found the only species that speaks their language.
Why would another species speak their language at all?
Because maybe they're Aquaman people who speak underwater. I don't know.
Neither Aquaman people who speak underwater.
Because remember, they had to filter the signal so it was underwater for it to make sense.
Yeah, which made no sense. But yeah.
Why?
Because whale song.
That was the premise of one of the Harry Potter movies when they found.
So now you're trying to use Harry Potter as grounded.
No, what I'm trying to say is like that's it's an idea that is not alien to fiction. The notion. So in this instance, they had these.
Okay.
It was mermaid speak, and they open this thing, and it sounds like screaming until you put it underwater, and then you can actually it filters it so that you hear the sound the way it's supposed to be heard. There's something to that,
Well,
but
except that how that sound does not easily travel from air to water.
no, but it travels amazing through water.
Oh yeah, if you generate the sound underwater, you can hear it fine. But the problem is if you generate the sound in the atmosphere, you're not going to hear it underwater.
Yeah, it would be super muffled at that point.
If you heard it
But
at
that's
all.
how strong the signal was. It was knocking everything out.
Yeah, but then how come when the
Boom.
whales wait. But then why wasn't there tsunamis every time the whales answered the probe and the probe heard them?
Did you not actually watch the show? I wonder sometimes, do you watch these things?
Yeah, the whale literally looks up and starts singing back to the probe. And if the whale song was so intense that it left the water and went to the whale probe, then it should have created tsunamis that wiped out San Francisco.
They had shields around San Francisco.
Wow.
Welcome to Star Trek Rationale. Let's go. Okay, that's how you do it.
But
You're
back to what we were
absolutely
actually talking about. Yes, the pre-Strange New World Gorn. I love the pre-Strange New World Gorn more. Likewise, the pre-Discovery Klingons and the Strange New World Klingons. I will say this: I don't have a problem with the redesign of the Gorn because they're more realistic. That's more what a lizard man would look like.
I love when you say stuff like that. This is clearly what a lizard man would look like.
If lizards had evolved into bipedal species,
Well, I hear you.
you know,
This is without a doubt, and no,
Like-
no factually, this is what they would look like.
well, think about okay.
No, by the way, I'm just picking because I love how we as sci-fi fans we
Yes.
speak with such authority about this stuff. It's like, well, that's what that's what it looks like. I'm with
But yeah, humans, if we are an evolved form of ape, right? Apes, by the way, contrary to monkeys, apes have no tails. That's why humans are not monkeys. We are apes, if you want to get technical about it, where we'd be classified as a species. If, however, we were lizards, all lizards have tails. And so the Gorn. Now, my theory, and I should do a fan theory on this for the channel, but my theory on the Gorn from Arena compared to the Gorn that we see in Strange New Worlds is the Gorn that we see in Arena is a female or a male. Either way, it's a different gender than the Gorn that we see.
Copy that.
So that's
Do
when they look.
do you think they look like the wouldn't they Voth be more like what they should look like?
I'm trying to remember what the Voth looked like.
They look like lizard people.
Let's see. The
Also,
Voth,
Stanley does ask a great question. Aren't the Cardassians supposed to be like evolved lizards?
but the Cardassians are but they have notoriously big butts. Although it's all surgery, we know.
It's all surgery. A little lift. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, it's just not working right. You gotta lift it up a little bit.
Yeah, the Voth though also and the Cardassians, and I think they do it for practicality because of budget and everything.
Sure.
Neither the Voth nor the Cardassians have tails. However, the Voth were evolved dinosaurs.
Because the tail only ever serves to add balance and support, not necessarily like what real use would a bipedal with our range of motion have for a tail?
Because, and we see that in Strange New Worlds, because the adult Gorn, because of its tail, had some significant combat advantages, even over a Vulcan.
But yeah, I guess I can see that.
And
As a weapon and other nonsense like that, I get it.
yeah,
I get it.
But,
Did the Gorn in the original series have a tail?
no,
Okay, let's try to remember. I was like, wait, did it have one?
the Strange
people
New
ever
World.
see- okay.
And by the way, I also double checked the Gorn, the CGI Gorn that they had on Enterprise, which you have not seen. because it's from
No, I
season.
have seen clips. I've seen clips.
Okay, but that Gorn did not have a tail either.
So, do you think we'll ever get like another like cast of Gorn that looks a closer like they've done with Strange New Worlds? It looks like the same design, but with our for the current technology and font doing it.
I think it's possible. I wouldn't mind them having some kind of explanation as to why they're a different looking Gorn. But and in fact, that's something they can use to try and explain Kirk's reaction to the Gorn in Arena. Because
Okay.
if you say, because Kirk, when he's facing off with the Gorn for the first
Yeah.
time, he hears
Yeah.
the captain's log, and he says, I'm engaged in personal combat with a creature apparently called a Gorn. And it's like the way that it's always been interpreted up until Strange New Worlds is that Kirk had never heard of a Gorn before. And here's this lizard thing in front of him.
And here we are, literally about to deal with a Gorn mini war.
Right, right.
In the
And the
season
Gorn
opener
are
for
well
season
known
three.
in Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
However, the Gorn look very different. So what if it's Kirk saying, it would be like if you see this weird, spider-looking creature and they tell you it's an antelope. And you're like, well, I'm facing down with this creature that apparently is called an antelope.
Right, but it shouldn't.
But it shouldn't be because it's a spider,
Yeah, right on.
And so that's what I think, that there is like a possible different Gorn species, a Gorn subspecies. This is maybe a Gorn that's very old, has lost its tail, or maybe it's a Gorn that is a different gender than what we've seen from Strange New Worlds. Or maybe like the ones we've seen in Strange New Worlds are all warriors. This Gorn was actually a scientist. We don't know.
But unfortunately, they only have one way to do this challenge. And he was that much of a scientist. Why didn't he build the cannon first? Ha ha! I'm kidding. I don't know.
So Klingons are the love child of a Gorn and a Romulan.
I love it.
How does that make any kind of sense?
Wow. Only you want to sit here and actually make sense of this stuff sometimes. God, what am I going to do with
Well,
you?
exactly, Eric. So yeah, the Xindi have 4 or 5 distinct species.
Yes.
And so and that are all highly evolved species that evolve from different branches of life, which is an interesting concept. Which, by the way, not to get all theological for a second, but if in fact Darwinian evolution was the answer to all of the questions about life on this earth, shouldn't there be multiple species that have evolved to true sentience like humans? Shouldn't we be coexisting with sentient lizards or sentient birds or sentient fish? I know some people try to argue that dolphins are very intelligent, but dolphins are just other mammals. So where are the other groups of sentient life forms that would have evolved to the same? And they had just as much time as humans did, right? We're all on the same planet.
I always thought it was interesting that nobody else has different types of people. Like we have different types based on
I mean,
our
like the concept of races.
sure. Like there's not multiple. I mean, somebody might argue the Romulans have the Remans, but I think the Remans are more of a genetic offshoot. Like it's
Well, that's where I like the Orions, because that's really the first time we've truly seen that. Is that the
Sure.
Orions are just blue Orions,
yes.
and the Orions are green Orions. They're
Yeah.
the same species, different race.
Right. I think that's so. That's that's an interesting distinction there that I thought was that they've started to dabble in.
Right, and they tried and failed at doing this a little bit on Discovery with the Klingons, where notice the Klingons were like purple and brown and green, and but they were all darker shades, but there were distinct different colors of Klingons, which before Klingons were pretty uniformly just kind of a dark, muddy flesh that was like an earth tone.
Sure.
And so they tried to do that a little bit with the Klingons in Discovery.
I thought they didn't. We've seen Bajoran people of color Bajorans, right? Didn't we?
I'm trying to remember. I mean, we've had Tuvok as a black Vulcan.
Yeah, it's true.
but Tuvok is really the only major black Vulcan. I think they might have shown one or two others.
Planet XS, didn't they say in one of the series Romulans with the bumps in their head were from the northern province, the ones without were from the southern
That
province?
was
I
in
think,
Picard. That was in
yeah.
Picard season 2 that they established that, I believe.
Which I'm down for.
Yeah. It makes sense, but it doesn't make sense at the same time. I've talked about this before because, like, for example, like, Mr. Know-It-All and I are obviously different racial classifications, right? If we want to get
Are we?
well, I
I'm messing
believe
with you,
so.
guy. I'm messing with you, guy, man. Tell your story.
Anyway, but I don't have any like bone structure or organs or anything like that are different than his. The differences between what we call races and humanity are superficial. Are 100% superficial.
Right.
And so with the Romulan thing, why would you have one race that has a bone structure in their skull that's completely different than the others? That doesn't add up from an evolutionary standpoint. They would be two different species at that point.
Agreed.
So I don't like that. The Remans are not Romulans, and that's something to remember.
No, so I always took it that they were like Cro-Magnon man versus like humans, Homo sapien. Like they were a weirdly differently evolved version, or are they just a completely different thing?
Right. Well, because the Remans, since they're on a different planet entirely, they could have evolved independently of the Romulans.
Right.
Or
Even
they,
though the Romulans themselves are supposed to be an offshoot of the Vulcans who just
right.
didn't
The
like.
Romulans are colonizers.
Right.
The planet Romulus was a planet that the Romulan. It's what's I think most likely is the Remans are the indigenous Romulans. I mean, that makes sense. Remans were there. The Romulans
So
show up.
Remus is just their. Here's your. What do they call this? Here's your. We're going to give you this little piece of land over here,
Yeah. So Remus became the reservation for the Remans.
and we'll pay you to dig up that really special ore that's in your place or
Yeah.
whatever.
And in fact, then, and this is where, like, hey, let's get into the lore a little bit. So you could argue that the Romulans with forehead bumps have a little bit of Reman in them. That would explain more than just a superficial difference, because if the Remans have enough, because thanks to the preservers and the progenitors, we know
Yes.
that there's a lot of cross compatibility between the different species.
Yes, there
So
are.
if some of the Romulans mated with some of the Remans, you could have ended up with the Romulans with the bumps.
Oh, okay. I like that.
But the Remans were then exiled to maybe the purest Romulans were like, this is, an abomination. And so they removed all the Remans from Romulus and stuck them on Remus.
Right. I love that. By the way, all of this is speculation, but it's fun to think about because you're like, I mean, they haven't given us stories, so we got to come up with our own.
Well, but we know that,
Well, you can conjecture a lot of things from it, obviously.
right. But we know that all the executives from Paramount watch this show, so this is now canon. They've said NerdFights, anything we come up with that makes sense is
Right.
considered
Good
canonical.
fights, canon. Let's go.
Yeah.
Nice.
And
Ugh.
it says that doesn't make any sense. Why not? What part?
But creep is creep. He doesn't make sense.
Yeah. There are stories, but they are not canon. Well, yeah, if you're talking about the books and stuff like that.
But again, I think you're right. Things aren't canon, but they aren't until they are. By that I just mean enjoy it, or it is until it isn't until it is again. Whatever. You know what I mean? If it gives you some semblance of an answer to speculate from, go with it.
And how many times has canon contradicted itself?
I mean, come on. Whatever.
I mean, Star Trek canon is notorious for
Star Trek is always solid on canon. Never makes a mistake.
never makes a mistake. So let me ask you a question. Can you beam through shields?
No.
Can you fire your weapons through the shields?
No. Unless you attune them to the harmonic resonance of the shields.
But what weapons can you and can you not fire through shields? That
I
is
don't.
actually in an episode of the original series.
I don't believe you can do torpedoes. I think you can do phasers.
You are dead opposite.
Is it the opposite, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
in Taste of Armageddon, Scotty was saying how he could not fire on them. He couldn't fire the phasers at them because they had the shields up because to defend themselves. He
Right.
goes, I could, however, treat them to a few dozen photon torpedoes.
Treat them. I
That
love it.
is actual dialogue.
Love it.
So you could fire torpedoes through shields, but not phasers, which makes no sense. But hey,
Well, and again, it has to do with what the purpose of the shields are. The shield's purpose is to what?
to defend.
No, but it surrounds and protects the thing itself. So if you can either if you're not, but what are they designed to protect against? Just anything? So you can just bump your shields up into anything?
That's the other problem because, like Stan Lee is trying to say, it's an energy shield, not a physical shield. Now you're thinking Star Wars.
Yeah.
Because Star Wars actually does have a distinction, and that's why they say ray shield, because it's shielded against any kind of energy attack, but physical objects can go through it. With Star Trek shields, no, you actually because if Star Trek shields were only energy shields, then you would never use anything but photon torpedoes.
Agreed.
And a photon, we've seen photon torpedoes at full yield will destroy a starship in one volley. And so if there's no shields involved.
Okay, here we go, right? I'm about to get wrapped in the mouth. The purpose of the shield is to absorb energy damage. Have you never played Star Trek Online? So the short and simple answer is no, I have not. I don't play a lot of games because at the end of the day, I have too much other stuff going on. I don't want to sound like I'm being dismissive and saying more important, but it's stuff that earns income. So take that with a grain of salt. That's why I don't play video games. I've never had the time.
I have played Star Trek Online, and the thing is, though, you're missing Ben, whose show this is dedicated to.
It's real.
What you're missing though is that torpedoes still can't just go through the shields. You have to knock the shields down, and then you fire your torpedoes at them to do the massive damage.
Right on.
And phasers are more. And by the way, this is actually something that they did adapt well because this was the original premise. Phasers are designed to wear down the shields, and then once the shields are down, you launch the torpedoes to destroy the ship.
There you go.
And now this is something interesting. Creep mentions the Star Trek shields deal with frequency. Yes, and so that's where you would kind of think that, okay, energy, shields, physical, not. But the funny thing is, and this is something that really pisses me off, and I never can get past this. In Star Trek Generations, they learn the shield frequency of the Enterprise and then immediately fire torpedoes through the shield. How do you set the frequency of a physical object?
So in and of itself, everything that goes through space would have to have some form of protection against debris, stuff, things. So there could always be that it's got its own. They have their own field, not necessarily an energy field, not a shield per se, but like an energy field that's designed just to help keep the dampener, so to speak, so nothing gets jostled that's inside until it needs to.
I don't know. The torpedoes. The one thing I've heard the torpedoes have is like a warp sustainer, so that they can be fired at warp speed. But they don't have warp engines themselves. They can just continue at a warp speed that they're launched at.
Correct. Right. Yes. Yes.
However, I've never heard the torpedoes have their own shielding system.
No, and I don't, and I'm not. That's why I hated shielding. But I'm saying it could be something along the lines of like an energy whatever. It's just something. Yeah. I don't know. Part of its guidance system of some
sort. But at least on the surface, it makes no sense to me that torpedoes. You could set the frequency of a torpedo any more than I could set the frequency of my coffee cup. You know, that just doesn't make sense to me. And by the way, Stan, I really hate the polarized deck plates from.
I knew you were going to say that. That's right.
I despise because why don't they just call it shields? Because the funny thing is that the concept of shields in the original series was not this bubble force field around the ship that we see. And notice, in no iteration of the original series, including the first 6 movies, do you ever see a bubble of protection around the ship?
We prefer to call it a hedge of protection for those of you in the faith community.
Yes, well, that's not a thing. What is a
Check the
thing?
face of your coffee cup. It could fall through the table.
And in fact, if you look at Star Trek 6, you see like the torpedo come and hit the surface of the ship, but then glance off because that's what the shields do, is they deflect whatever comes in. That's why they're called deflectors. But the grid pattern that you see on the surface of the hull, if you look at some of the old documents, like you look at the original Starfleet technical manual, you look at
I love that book. I'm telling you, I need to
oh
find
yeah, I have a
mine.
first edition of it up here. I love
Oh,
it.
love it.
But the original Starfleet technical manual stuff, like you'll see that grid that you see on the saucer those are the shields. Those are literally physical devices. The shields. And so if the shields are offline, it's because they don't have power. So
Right.
polarizing the hull plating and the deflector shields are kind of the same thing. It's not until TNG that they created because